Peace, family. We're back with another episode of the TrakWolf Godcast. Indeed. I'm your boy, TrakBeatz. We got my motherfucking brother, Cheno Bliss, in the building with us as always. You know what I'm saying? Y'all make sure y'all tap into Vinegar Hill. You know what I'm saying? They got a lot of dope work, content, everything you need, merch, all of the above. You know what I'm saying? We always got everything down below. You know what I'm saying? But on that note, you know what I'm saying? We about to tap into this special guest we got here with us today. You know what I'm saying? Sarad Speaks is in the building. Word. How you doing, bro?
Man, I'm great, man. I'm feeling good. I feel really bright. I'm drinking my water,
Let me preface this, man. I need that genuine Sarad from the Charlottesville album, man. That's probably my favorite piece of work from you.
Okay. Which, well, you know, in that little span, that like 2-year span, I did like 4 albums, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. I pushed a whole lot of content out. It was kind of just sitting on me, and I was like, I got to get this out. And I got it out. I feel better. You had that creative burst.
Yeah,
that was let it out. So I feel good now. I don't feel any like passion or push to like put out any new content right now. But for that couple years, them 4 and a lot of stuff I didn't even put out, so I probably did like in that time I probably did like 80, 90 tracks. And then I was just grinding, just locking myself in the studio, you know what I'm saying? Was just grinding, getting beats, making beats, working on concepts, kind of just trying to tell my story. And it felt good. I mean, everybody's content is different, but it felt good to me. And before, I know you probably got questions, but the reason why I stuck with it really was because it was really just like a expression, because I've always been I grew up I was born in 79. So, like for these kids, the internet, they always knew that. For me, it was hip hop. I was born into it. So it wasn't like something I could like not do. Like I remember, breakdancing in the project parks on cardboard. I remember breakdance contests, and, carrying a box, playing Run DMC and Houdini, what I'm saying? Like, so like, it's not something that I could like, get rid of. It was deeply inside of me, So, but I did this one track, which it was a risky track because it was kind of political. And I threw the video up. I did a visual for it up at the Lincoln Memorial in DC, and threw it up. That joint went kind of semi-viral, and started getting, interest for people to book me. I started getting booked for shows from like, it was like a political campaign. I got booked like twice, paid, and I was just playing around. Yeah. And so that's why I was like, all right, let me see where this gonna go. You know what I mean? And I ain't become no like, I ain't hit Billboard or nothing like that, but I had a good run and did some live shows, and it was a good experience. So,
Bruh, yeah, man. Like when you was doing that, wasn't it all live instrumentation? Like you really took that, you took it there, like the mixing, the lyrics, it was hip hop.
Yeah, I had musicians, right? So like I knew some, we'll get to the spiritual stuff later. So I knew some guys that was like, trained musicians. And I was like, yo, even if I had like a rudimentary beat or track, I'm like, yo, I need you to come back with the organ on this or with the piano on this joint and bring this joint to life. I did a lot of that, like, just soulful. Everything had, for me, that's just, that was my lane. I know that's my average, like, had to be soulful. And I had some amazing folks that, kind of, come and help me on that.
So like, because I think when you were going through that, I remember you saying like when you were younger, you were into music too. And then like this was kind of like closing that chapter? You know what I mean? That's what it kind of seemed like.
Yeah, well, like, I used to go to, people who talk about the Music Resource Center, but I was one of the first to go to the Music Resource Center when it was above tracks. I think that's in one of my songs. So it used to be Music Resource Center used to be a nightclub called Tracks. It's not even there no more, right? Over by the hospital. And then upstairs, was the Music Resource Center, and Ivan Orr and a lot of those other cats that used to, when we were young, and you just go in there. And a lot of those cats, like even Quinn and Bumper, when they started making beats, which like became the generations after them, the beat makers that came after that, that's where they got their start. And they used to make beats for me, right? Right. Like if I go in the studio, they like, oh, he fitting to get on the mic, So at that time, but and I was into it. I thought I was good. I used to write for others at that time too. Some people may not remember this, but some people do. But Nas came to Charlottesville in like 94. UVA brought him up there, and they allowed local artists to get on stage before Nas and Jeanne concert. And I don't know what made me get on the stage, man. But got up on that joint and killed that joint. Yo, it's crazy. People's like, yo, I ain't even know. And I was like 13 or 14 years old. So it was like, I really thought that, I was like, yo, this joint, I might could do this thing, and then started
so
dealing.
How you get the willpower to get up on the stage at that age, man? What possessed you to jump up there? Because that's a big moment.
For sure. I had did talent shows. So I went to city school. So I did the talent show at Buford. I did the talent show at CHS later, but I hadn't did the one at CHS by then because I was like 13 or 14. But it was like something just came over me because I knew, because it's about like, I knew even then it's about like rocking the crowd, stage presence, moving the people, punchlines, especially when it's live. You know what I'm saying? And like moving the crowd. So like, and I know like, cause my mama was in the crowd. My mom didn't even know I was gonna do that, right? So she was like, son, you was good. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause it was like thousands of people out there. And I was like, yo, I was thinking to myself, like, I might could do this thing. But it wasn't so like when you in the hip hop, when that's a part of who you are, it's just a part of who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like, and you grow up in the culture, you gotta, like, I came up in the era of ciphering. So it wasn't no fear, you know what I'm saying? When you gotta like be in a cipher with and be sharp around others. So if somebody give you an opportunity to be on stage, you already been getting sharp, just in the ciphers.
You guys interact as a human already in that generation. See, I was born 85, so I was still of age when the 90s hit, where it was still not a whole lot of technology. You had to interact, and I was seeing the older generation still growing up, you know what I'm saying, like how everybody interacted. So it was no technology. You did have to kind of have some balls and be able to jump out there, like, because that's bigger than a talent show. You talking about talent shows, and I'm just shaking my head, nigga, like, that's bigger than a talent show. Like,
oh yeah. And it wasn't like, and so like the thing was before that, like it wasn't like it was planned. It wasn't like, yo, you gonna rap tonight. It was like anybody in the crowd want to get on the mic. And I was like, somehow I worked my way up to the stage through all of them people and they picked me. And I was like,
he was like, oh, it worked. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Manifested that shit.
Yo, that joke was crazy. And it was like a out of body moment. I still remember the jacket I had like this gray and red windbreaker on that I had borrowed from my homie. Like I was poor back then, you know what I'm saying? We was broke, you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't had much, but I had like my little windbreaker on. Somehow I got tickets to the concert. So I was away. But it was like, who want to get on the mic? And I was like, I'm about to get on the mic, yo. You know, and
that's dope. So
yeah.
So how did you get your last day speaks? Or is that
well, you know, it's funny. You know, and this may blend into the other, you know, areas that we might talk about, but you know, like I ended up going to school to be I majored in media and communications, and because with the idea I wanted to be a music video producer. That's why I went to college. I said when I got out, I said I want to be the next Hype Williams, because I was like, you know, at that time Hype Williams was the man. I was like, yo, I might not be a rapper, but I'm gonna be in the hip hop industry. So when I went to college, I was like, I'm gonna be in the business. So, but I got there and I fell in love with. I found out I was a good writer, and this was like play into the other stuff that went on in my life. And I found out not only that, I was a good, you know, speaker and orator. I was on the when I got to college, like there's this thing called forensics and debate, which is like, you know, kind of like a debate team or whatever. And it's like, it's really big because it's almost like, it's like you can get a scholarship for that, right? And so I made the team because I was rap, you know, I grew up in hip hop, I was rapping, right? Then I become a communications major and I started writing and I started, you know, giving speeches because I was a comms major. And then I started to compete compete all across the country. Like we was going Ohio and I was killing it. Because you think somebody who understands the cadence of speaking and how to manipulate sound and words, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that, like the hip hop actually gave me that. And then I went out there and cleaned up on the road. I became a national, I became I qualified for the nationals in my first year, you know what I'm saying, of doing forensics and debate. And my event was pros. Look, so people don't know you do forensics and debate, you get a scholarship for all this. You don't necessarily have to do debate. You can do, my event was prose and poetry. So I could get up and do poetry or recite prose and be crushing them kids all over the country because I had the hip hop in me.
Better wordplay.
So right, so like, come on, baby. So by the time I got to college, I was already a veteran with the words. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then I was able to compete. You know, and I had a good teacher though. Yo, she was like, if you ever seen a woman that's a Medea in real life, her name was Sandra Jo Washington. She was my teacher. She was from Suffolk, Virginia. She was a G. She really carried a pistol, like no doubt. She was like,
salute to her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That push to get you going. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's to help you take that shit off. You was already going.
Yeah, she helped me, but like, she helped me from a philosophical standpoint. You know what I'm saying? She was actually trained in philosophy. So she was like teaching us like, you know, about rhetoric. So rhetoric was my, you know, another event I did, and I did impromptu, but she would teach us about like, you know, Aristotelian ethics and, you know, and Plato and all, but you know, this is a Black lady that looked like your grandmama's sister, you know what I'm saying? But she was teaching me about like philosophy, you know, through all of this process, but she was a G too, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's how the speaks came, you know, like, and then I, you know, in the spiritual realm, you know, I've given a lot of, you know, speeches. I've even led a what I call a faith community, and I did a lot of speaking. And I thought that, you know, with this next level in my life, speaking is what I've done, and that's kind of who I am. So Sarad Speaks, it makes sense for me.
So like, when I met you, it was like 2012. And I was going on a trip to Africa.
Yeah.
How did you transition from music to getting into community work?
Yeah, so I'm a community person, right? You know what I mean? I grew up in Charlottesville. My beginnings are in, it's funny, my mom, grew up like over on the Ridge Street area, you know, but the family who raised me, my father, you know, his family grew up, you know, first in Vinegar Hill and then in West Haven. So my earliest memories are at my grandmother's house, you know, in West Haven, right? 824 H Hardy Drive. That's what I remember. I remember the first part. I used to watch the trash man come and dump the trash. I got into my first fights over there, and you know, we fought every day. You know what I'm saying? So that's like my beginning, but it was a beautiful community, meaning that we had love, and it was a lot of love. It was a lot of love. I believe that who I became as a person is a large part due to that love that was in the community. So so that shaped me of being a community person. My grandmother was the type of person that would feed anybody, you know, that needed to be fed in the community. You know what I'm saying? You know, they used to say my dad was the project philosopher, you know what I'm saying? So like, you know, they championed education. Education was like something they always like, you know, kind of pushed on me. Not all of us, you know, but for me, they kind of pushed me in that direction. So I was always set up inside of myself to give back, because I felt like the community had gave so much to making me who I was. So I felt like giving back. So, you know, how I got back to Charlottesville is a very long story, because I end up, you know, I traveled to Europe, you know what I'm saying, before I came back. The reason why I came back to Charlottesville was because I felt guilty in a lot of ways, because of all of my experiences. When I was 19, like I said, I used to write. I got an internship with the New York Times, right? You know, people think this magazine, Vinegar Hill magazine, came out of thin air. You know, Eddie's the publisher, but I interned with the New York Times when I was a 19-year-old in college as a communications, and I was an assistant editor of the internal publication. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just regular dude from Charlottesville. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, regular cat, you know, but that's why I know that there's so much greatness in Charlottesville that nobody ever gets a chance to see in the world. And like, I was like, so my job now is to go back and figure out how to unearth that greatness and let the world see the greatness that is there. Like, how do I, you know, excavate it and let the whole world see, you know, how much goodness and greatness is there among the kids and the people that are there. So that was kind of how I got back. And but right before I came back to Charlottesville, I was in DC for 3 years. I was working in Ward 8 in Southeast in the school system, you know, doing the same thing, community work. And the funny thing is, and I'll stop here, is like, well, how you go to school for communication and, you know, you start writing and all this. So when I got out of college, I was in media and technology. So that was what I did. And I made a conscious decision when I was about 25 or 26 to switch out of that world completely and to go full time into community work, human service, education. I was like, I got to give back. So I was like, I you know, like I had done well from where I had come from. I had done really well. You know what I'm saying? Like, no doubt. And it's not like, you know, I think I was 25, 26, I had bought a house, you know what I'm saying? But I still didn't feel like I was, you know, some people feel like that's when you made it, but that's not when you made it. How you make it.
26?
Yeah, it was like 25 or 26, you know, so like
how was that for you? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it was good. It was a good process. I grind, you know, I focused and I grind and put the pieces together, you know what I'm saying? And
a lot of people go through that, but they don't know how to really take the step to be able to, you know, put themselves in position to be purchasing at the age of 25, 26.
Yeah, and it can happen fast if you focus, right? And at that time, I was just so focused. But what I'm saying is, I found out that wasn't, having those things wasn't enough for me. I realized that what was more meaningful to me was how I impacted the lives of others, right? Rather than those things that I had acquired, right? And a lot of people thought I was crazy. I walked away from everything, man, to you know, to go and give back. And it took a while for me to kind of see the benefit of giving up everything to come back. You know, sometimes I made that sacrifice, and it's well worth it. I wouldn't change anything in the world. It was definitely worth it. But there was some sacrifices at the time. So
was that your goal? Was that your goal when you was pushing to get a house? Was your goal to get a house at that time?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's like some people say, like, I'm gonna be a homeowner, you know what I'm saying? I was like, so I was on that, and I was like, all right, and it was like I did it, you know. So I mean, you just gotta watch it, you know. The thing is, I went to a seminar on home buying, you know, and I was doing that stuff when I was always trying to be a step ahead of the game, you know.
Yeah, you was. That's what I'm saying. 26, like
yeah. I can't remember. I might have been younger than that. It might have been like, it was either between 24 and 26. But I was trying to be ahead of the game. And I was like, I want to acquire some property. You know what I'm saying? I'm making decent money. My credit score is in good shape. Why pay somebody rent when I can take that and put it towards a mortgage of something that I own and develop some equity in, and have some leverage into something else that I may want to buy later, or other property I want to acquire. This is a good first step. And so, like, my friends were grinders too. So, like, to be honest with you, I was late to the game. Some of my friends, like, from that, you know, because I lived in Norfolk. You know, some of my friends were from New York. And, you know, one of my friends from New York, he was younger than me. At that age, he had multiple properties. So I was feeling like I was late. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's kind of different levels depending on who you know, right?
Yeah.
So at that time, you know, my friend, he had multiple properties. He not only did he have
some elevators. So people who elevators, so they made you your circle elevated. So it's like, man, this fuck my circle doing, like, yo, all right, I'm about to do it now. I'm about to do it.
That's how I was, because he was younger than me. And not only did he have multiple properties, but he built one of them from scratch. He like bought some land, built that, you know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, this young dude, he younger than me. I
want to buy land. I'm at that space now, and he been there, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to buy some land.
Yeah. So it was cats that was younger than me that was doing that. But my friends were from all over, you know, and I had, you know, by that time I had traveled, you know, a good part of Europe, and, you know, especially the United States. So I had met a lot of people, and just good people. I played a lot of chess, so I met a lot of friends through playing chess.
I gotta see you on the board then.
You ain't trying to see me, yo.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you, working on that board.
All right.
That's what I do.
Yeah. So
on the chess board. I love chess players. I know.
Yeah, it's like most of my best friends are. One of my best friends, you know, I met through chess, like, because you can learn a lot about how a person approaches
situations. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can be like, all right, we could hang then, we could rock, because I know how you probably would move how I would move in this situation. So like, we can roll, you know what I'm saying? But so it just tells you a lot about,
So, like, I remember you mentioning Vinegar Hill. I see this on your shirt. Did you experience any Vinegar Hill? Because, you know, I hear a lot about it. I know about it. I don't know the history that deep.
Yeah, so like I said, like, you know, my father's family lived there. So, like, I would hear stories of, so like, people think that Vinegar Hill was like in ancient times, right? But it's people still alive that used to live there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could go talk to somebody just like one generation back from me that used to live there. Like, they were kids there. So it's not like it was that far away. It was like demolished in the mid 60s. Like, it's people that were alive in the mid 60s now. Like, that wasn't a long time ago, right?
My mom was born in the 60s.
You know what I'm saying? So like, people act like it was that they act like, oh, that's a long time ago. No, people were still alive that were there. So I was able to hear those stories. And then, I heard about like the community they had. It wasn't all great. Like a lot of people think that it was, it wasn't all great, but they had each other. They had community. They had a business district. And the lack of investment in that community wasn't their fault. That was the system who made a decision not to invest to develop those areas where they lived. And they took investment and put it in other areas, right? To build up those areas when they could have done the same in these communities where Black people live, right? And this is the story all over the country, right? You can put Vinegar Hill up against Greenwood and Tulsa, U Street Quarter, in DC, Jackson Ward and Richmond, and this issue of urban renewal, which was, kind of a national policy that just came through and through eminent domain took over people's land and communities and moved people to public housing, So I know people who were there and they talk about it as not all bad, right? It was a lot of community connections there. I mean, I hear about like I always hear about the gardens and the stores and the very much strong sense of community and culture. And one last thing on that is how I got on it. Check this out. So I really didn't know a lot about it, even though I grew up in it. But when I was in college, sometimes I would just go to the library and just search stuff. And one day I searched Charlottesville, right? And I searched, and this book came up. It says, Vinegar Hill and the Destruction of Black Culture in Charlottesville, Virginia. That was the name of the book. I was like, what? The destruction of Black culture?
You just planted a seed.
Yo, and so I got the book and I read the book and I was like, yo, that's my people. That's me. I was like, yo, this joint is in a collegiate library, right? And when I'm in Norfolk and I'm learning about it when I'm, 18, 19 years old, about the destruction of culture. I was like, wow, it's a book named that? And so that really changed my idea about my identity as a Black person from Charlottesville. But I didn't learn that until I left. And I learned about the culture of Charlottesville, of Black Charlottesville, from business, entrepreneurship, art, all of those things. I learned about that. I thought that we weren't capable of those things. I thought that, I didn't think I was smart. I didn't, not to say that smart is a good thing, but I didn't think I was capable or that I could produce. But then I started to do the history and I was like, yo, we was doing major things like way back. And we just never got the connection. So, kind of part of what we're doing with the Vinegar Hill is to create that intergenerational connection across the generations to let everybody know, kind of like what Nipsey Hussle said, when you find out that you already great, it's like, wow, I ain't even know. Like, you already come from greatness. And I don't mean like, people are like, you were great kings back in Africa, and that's cool, we were. But you was great king in your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't gotta go that far back to see your greatness.
Yeah, and they definitely disconnected the generations. You know what I'm saying? And that was a lot. That had a lot to do with me doing my own background search myself. You know what I'm saying? It took for me to be over 30 for me to start asking my grandmother relevant questions while she's still here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't thinking about asking her about how she was brought up or, where she lived or things she was connected to her and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. And that's the thing. Like, so sometimes the answers are right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, you just gotta have a conversation.
Yeah, that's the mind blowing part. Yeah. So where's some of the locations that you actually got to go speak at?
I spoke. During my college years, I spoke at Ohio State University. I qualified for nationals there. I've spoken at this college up in Pennsylvania called Westchester University. I won the poetry award there. I think won the prose award there also. I've traveled to New Hampshire. I've been up to St. Anselm. It's a college up in New Hampshire. That was different. Yeah, I think I won. I think wherever I traveled, I won. I don't think I ever came back without like a trophy. So when I was doing forensics and debate in college. So, you know, that
forensics, what exactly is forensics?
So when people think forensic, a lot of times they think like CSI, but
yeah, that's why I was trying to get some kind of
but forensics also, there's, you know how in the English language sometimes you have two words, you have one word that means multiple things, right? Yeah, this is one of those, this is one of those words, right? That, you know, it also is like, you know, kind of like science in criminology, right? But it's also it has to do with rhetoric and speaking and communication, right? And so they formally call it the forensics and debate team. Yeah, it took me a while to like get that concept down too, and to separate the two worlds. Like, you know, I'm not talking about CSI. We're talking about communication right here. So yeah.
That's a learning point for me because that's the first time me hearing that, you know what I'm
saying? Yeah.
That created a duality for that word. I do that with a lot of words myself, so I was just wondering what was the other side of that. I knew you wasn't talking about forensics, like I'm like, nah, this nigga talking poetry.
I hope people watch the whole you know, the whole show so they could see me break this down, because they be like, yo, you know, like, I don't know what he talking about, yo.
Yeah, nah, that makes sense now though. That adds some better perspective to it.
Yeah. So when I got a chance to go to Africa, because we're talking about forensics and perspective, when I got a chance to go to Africa, that changed my perspective in a way I could never ever imagine, man. Like never ever. Even to the point where I came home and immediately people thought I was acting different. I said I was acting different. Like I was changed from the inside out. Like, how did you get into the position of community work where you are able to send people to places like that and do things of that nature?
So, you know, I talked a little bit about it. You know, I traveled outside of the country, you know, at a very young age, right? You know, really through people I met in college. Like I had the same experience when I went to Amsterdam. I see y'all got your sativa going on. So, you know, back in them days, I went to Amsterdam, Rotterdam. I've been to The Hague. You know, I did all of the train circuits out in Europe and all that. So, you know, I was doing that back then, and it's the situation that changed me. Like I was forever transformed, right? I was like, yo, it's a whole world out there, yo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, they just live it.
Yo, it was like, yo, I need to get myself like going, right? To be like you could be like a spectator or you could be a participant in life, in the world, right? Yeah. So I was like, I gotta get in the game, like for real, like, cause there's a whole world going out there. And so like when I went there, right, this is crazy. When I first went out of the country, you know, it was like the late 90s, right? And we had beepers. We still have beepers. And what tripped me out was when I went over there, they already had cell phones. And I was like, and like, it wasn't like a couple people had a cell phone.
A lot of people had.
Everybody had a cell phone. I was like, I thought we was ahead of everybody in the world. And I'm get over there and it's like,
nah. Y'all,
so I was like,
y'all cool.
We actually be behind on a lot of shit, which we fucked up.
We be behind and don't even think we ahead. I was like, wow. So that changed me. So I was like, so I got to start thinking globally. You know what I'm saying? So like, I had to change my thinking. So I knew that if I was ever in a position to like, you know, I say like, you know, to control the bag, I was going to put other youth from my hometown in a position to go out of the country because I knew what it did for me. And I said, like, you know, and the only reason I didn't go on the trip with Saquon and you all to Africa, I was going to go to that one with you all, but I had a staff member that had lived in Africa before, right? And I was like, it's better if they go with her because she's lived in Africa before. She can really show them the game in a way that I can't show them. You know what I'm saying? So it make more sense. But I'm gonna send y'all. And now more and more kids have went to Africa from Charlottesville like than probably ever before in history. But people like Clue used to say, you know where you heard it first, or like, you know, or like Hove used to say, you know, that's cool, you know, but you know, we was the first ones with it.
Hove is hip hop. A lot of Hove quotes.
So, you know,
so you like the middleman, you set up an organization where you like the middleman almost kind of to get
well, so I wouldn't say that I set up the organization, but they recruited me when I was in DC to come here and lead the organization. And for me, I knew this is what I did know is that for Black people in America, you gotta unlock the Africa key to find out your whole entire self. You have to do that because I integrated African culture into our programming. Like whenever we had a community dinner, I would bring Chihamba. They would set it off and they would do the drums, they would do the drum circles, all of that, because I knew that is part of the culture that has been extracted. But I knew that if you inject that culture back in, it opens, it's like the key that opens the door to your consciousness, because you know everything that we've been told in our lives is there's something wrong with that, and it actually locks the door when they tell you there's something wrong with it. So my job kind of indirectly, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I was saying that because I don't care, but you know, is to integrate African culture into our programming, into the mindset, send kids, make sure that people can go to Africa by whatever means, so that we can integrate that, because I knew that was going to be part of the key that unlocked them unleashing their full total selves and presenting their total selves to society and wherever they found themselves. Like, because it's like you're not able to be your whole full self, but once you unlock that key, then it's like, oh, I'm here, participant in the galaxy, and not just letting things happen to me. I'm actually in it.
Yeah, man. That's dope that you was able to create the angle, you know what I'm saying, to find your path through the universe to kind of, you know, to do your part. That's dope. Like, we deal with a lot of, you know, dope people that come through and we communicate outside of here on a regular basis. Like, and everybody has a different angle or approach, you know what I'm saying? Like, like big up and like your approach and your angle as far as like taking on the community and helping, because a lot of people don't know how to travel outside the states. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't know how to travel out the states, you can holler at Sarad, you know what I'm saying?
You can holler at Saquon too, because you know, Cheno, because we went through that process, you know, together, because he had to walk through it. Like he had no passport.
Okay.
He had to walk.
That's why I felt like you was on the trip with me, because he took me to get the passport. Man, I came to speak to him afterwards, man. He told me I never forgot the name of the book. It's like the Pedagogy of the Oppressed Man.
Oh, the Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Paulo Freire, the Brazilian scholar. Yeah, you gotta read that.
That always stuck with me, because even when I took that trip to Africa, I had just stepped on my spiritual journey, reading The Power of Now. When I was 5, I had this memory. This guy came from Egypt. He was like, "You gotta go to Africa. You gotta go to Africa. Make sure you show your son go to Africa." I went to Africa, all expense paid.
Facts.
On a spiritual journey, like all these signs that stuck with me throughout life, everything was supposed to happen. Tina, my mom's name Tina, the guy up in Africa, her name was Tina. She felt like my mom. Like everything was in sync. You know what I mean? And it unlocked stuff, man. Like even when I came to see you, you told me the name of the book. You was just like, man, like you like Neo in the Matrix, man. Like
Bro, that's dope. That is definitely like a great experience, and you should start pushing that same concept as well, and then start thinking about unlocking doors for people that way. I never thought of that approach before. You know what I'm saying? You talked about the trip, but never the process.
Yeah. So it's about like experience. So some people are subject oriented, some people are object oriented. So object oriented learners are people who can like read a book and learn something. But a lot of you know, a lot of people that I know, and I am an experiential subject oriented learner where I have to have an experience.
Yeah.
And the experience is what unlocks it. There is knowledge in the experience. And that's part of what the pedagogy of the oppressed is about, is like creating.
So like when I went to Africa, man, and I seen so many Black people together without no problems, man, like seeing them so spiritually connected, seeing them like see poor people beside rich people, seeing they'll get a shirt off their back and they don't got nothing. You know what I mean? Like that, it just hit me different. As soon as I came back, like I told the girl I was with, I was like, I needed your acceptance at first. I don't need it no more. All that stuff before, it ain't going like that. Anything like that, it's over. She was like, dang, where's I miss you? Where's all that? I was like, I miss you. I love you. But it just made me realize my value immediately. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly. So that is, the underlying tone of everything I talk about is about inherent value. Right. And like the value, like people have a misplaced value, even in like the movements that are going on now, like when they talk about Black Lives Matter, it at the essence of that statement, it is about value. To say that everybody has value, right? But it's one thing to say it and it's one thing to embody it.
Yeah, you do something to my family, I show you how much I value my morals and values and my family.
Hey, and that's one thing. Like I had a professor one time that talked about sometimes we have inappropriate behavior, because inappropriate behavior is when you respond. I don't want to get too deep about it, but when you respond in a way that doesn't demonstrate that you value something that you say that you value. So inappropriate behavior is how you respond to how people devalue you or people that you love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, so you better be thoughtful of somebody that really, that's why I tell my kids every day, multiple times a day, that I love them, because I want them to walk in the world knowing that even if the world doesn't value you, you have value. And people that know that they are loved are less likely to be abused. Because you can't treat me like that. I don't know who else you treat like that. But me, you're going to have to come again and talk to me in a different way.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? When I know that I have value. When I don't know that I have value, then I might allow you to talk to me in a way that doesn't represent that value that I know that I have. You ain't finna talk to me like that.
Yeah. That's what I came home with.
I got a 5-year-old now. Make sure I teach her that and tell her that on a regular basis. Yeah, I'll be on top of that shit. But as far as like the Black Lives Matter though shit, that's like with the cop killing shit. Like they don't stand up for no other shit that be going on as far as with Black lives. So like it's not, to me, as far as that, it's like it's only with so much preaching you can do. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, Haiti didn't win their wars by preaching. So
yeah. So we're not gonna go down that route tonight.
Now, I like speaking, but I'm talking about as far as the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. I think that everybody doesn't, I only brought that up to talk about the issue of value. In that statement is a statement about value. But when you're talking about methodology, you're saying that like everybody don't necessarily agree with that methodology to deal with those who devalue you. And that's cool because everybody don't agree with how you respond to devaluation. And so but we all can agree that I think that there is a realistic devaluation, like people, and how you respond to that. You don't have to accept devaluation. You don't gotta accept it. Like you ain't gonna talk to me like that.
But I've been through a rack of shit, so I know what that shit feels like, and how you had to push through that shit and definitely fight through those obstacles. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's the beauty in life and experiencing. You know what I'm saying, and fighting through. You know what I'm saying, and learning through the process. You know what I'm saying. Don't just be like, oh, this just happened to me because it was me. It happened for a reason. So look at the experience and try to pick out what you can. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly. I mean, that's why I like y'all, because like, you know, I'm, me and my guys, like I have a tight circle. Like I told you before, chess players usually have a tight circle. So I got a tight circle of people that people don't even know, but we are, we are in this space where we call it ascension or actualization. So I see you all moving there. You're trying to go higher, and that's what I'm about, right? Like, how do I actualize and ascend in this particular dimension? That I might be able to access other dimensions even within this dimension, and then come back, right, and help people access other dimensions, right? So that's the whole thing, right? Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm helping people access other dimensions that they cannot see. Like, I've seen them, I've been there, I can take you to it, but it's, these processes, like Neo said, I know judo. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's about, the program that you run, right? And the algorithm that you run. And if that algorithm is pathological, or it is an algorithm that brings about health, right? Because in our communities, we run a lot of pathological algorithms that are like kind of cancer cause. Or what I used to call degenerative algorithms. It's a degenerative algorithm. But if I come and run an algorithm that actually brings life, you have an opportunity to put forth a program, an algorithm that brings forth life, because a lot of what we are operating off are viruses that are run rampant. And then Cheno goes to Africa. He's like, man, it ain't even got to be like that. Like, we can actually love each other. You know what I'm saying? Like
we ain't even really broke. Enough opportunity here, like so much stuff, man. I'm triggered when you say that.
Yeah. So hold on right quick. I'm doing this podcast right now. It'd be cool if you could wait till I just join up. That's my 18-year-old. She a little bit more, she grown. So I gotta talk differently to her. I can't be like, man, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? So like, I gotta be like 18-year-old.
So how was fathering through the process? Because mine is 5, She, she is a girl too as well. So she'll be on
so
218, you know what I'm saying? So like,
so
fatherhood for you.
Fatherhood is the most beautiful thing, man. Shout out, Cheno, you just entered the world, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Congrats on that. But it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And it is another transformational experience. There's nothing like it, when you realize that the responsibility you have for an actual human being. You know what I'm saying? So like, if that don't get you to get on your grind, then it ain't in you. You know what I'm saying? So, or you got to let those gears shift within you, as far as like understanding your responsibility, right? And I took it very seriously. You know, my father, me and my father had a very great relationship, and I have a complicated father story because, you know, my biological father didn't raise me, but another man did. But it was, you know, it's very complicated. But I know that I wanted to be present and accounted for, and I wanted to be a good father, and I wanted to. I call it a life curriculum, right? I believe that even though my parents weren't together, they did set up this life curriculum for me to have certain experiences so that I could develop, so I wouldn't, have, kind of maldevelopment, right? Or, you know, even malnourishment on the course of my journey. And some of it was just like what I believe, as my friend would say, the God of my understanding was just creating those experiences also along the way that my parents, it had nothing to do with them. It had to do with God just putting me through a set of experiences to help me to become who I was going to ultimately become. But I really wanted to pay attention to the life curriculum that I set for my children. Like, what do I want them to know? What experiences did I want them to have? And for them, it wasn't really about what I wanted them to know. It was more about the character that I wanted to build. How do I want the framework for their thinking? How do I want them to approach life? How do I want them to like, act from their heart? How do I want them to be ethical creatures? Because like, that stuff, like people think that the streets or whatever doesn't have a code, but it does. And a lot of it's based on ethics. And like, if you break the code, so if you have an ethical framework and you understand codes, then you can operate in different dimensions because you know how codes work. So like, in my lifetime, I've been able to go to places that a lot of people can't go because I understand codes and ethics and things like that. And if you violate, there are consequences. So for raising children, those things are more important to me. How you interact with people. Are you a genuine person? Are you real? You know what I'm saying? Are you loving? Are you kind? Are you, do you talk about people behind their back? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't do that. We solid. So more than anything for them, I wanted them to have that as their life curriculum. So I'm in, because my thing is, when I'm not here, I want them to be able to hold it down. And the only way they can, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's my goal. And they're not going to be able to hold it down if they don't have those ethical principles and ways of being and living. And nobody's going to give that to them. Like, I'm responsible for making sure that they have those inputs.
I've been teaching my daughter about the chakras and everything already. She already know how many it is. I just plant little seeds here and there. We don't dive too deep, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to give everything to them on certain levels. So to what degree do you mold or put the character you would like into your child, and then to what degree do you let them be an individual?
So it's about timing, right? So earlier, the better, right? It's just like when a person learns how to talk, they learn through observation and almost through just being around other people and socializing. And language development is done at a very early age, right? Like, and I think character, ethical, and principle development is done at a very early age. So like, I think by the time your kids get about 10, it's going to be hard to give them some of those, there are lessons that unfold that are deeper later, but the earlier you're able to instill those things, those kind of principles, the more likely they are to stick and to become a part of who they are and their character and their being and how they interact in the world. Then to try to, it's not to say that people can't get it later. It's just harder to get it later than to get those principles early. So, it's not about sometimes what the content you're trying to put in. A lot of it's about when you do it.
Yeah.
And the environment, right? The environment that these children are being brought up in, the household, all of that plays into the energy that's around them, shapes who they become and who they are very early. Just like if y'all watch, y'all are Star Wars fans, right? The thing about Anakin Skywalker was that they didn't want him to become a Jedi because he was still a kid, and they were like, he too late. Like, he can't become a Jedi. He can't become a Jedi master. He was like, yo, we start him out as babies.
I train my I do that with my child right now. Yeah.
So they it's and I believe in late bloomers. I think in some respects, a lot of people are late bloomer. I believe I was a late bloomer, and sometimes it's cool to be late, but it's risky. And the earlier you can instill those principles, and I think the better. It's more about timing for me than often an environment that they grow in. It's like a plant you're growing. Like, what are you putting in the soil? What about that water, that sunlight? What's the environment that they're growing and becoming? And if that environment is not nurturing, and that's what I put into my community work, right? So community work is like, how do we create an ecosystem or an environment that's going to produce the result? So a lot of it is about cultivating, getting your hands in the dirt, making sure the right nutrients in it, checking the pH, making sure if it don't rain that you water the plants. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's community development, and you will have you're less likely to have a pathological algorithm if you're out there being a white hat. You're being an ethical hacker and not an unethical hacker in the community sense.
Yeah. So like for the people who may not know, what you said, pathological what? I blanked out. Pathological.
No, I said what did I say?
The term.
I just said pathological or pathological algorithm. So
yeah, what does that term mean?
Good point. So an algorithm is, the root is in the word, algebra, right? So in algorithms are, an easy way to explain an algorithm is that, when you go on social media or you go online, they are monitoring your actions, and those actions end up producing, an algorithm that will populate the ads that will show up to align with the interests and things that you have. So the algorithm is like, go ahead. That sounds like you want to bring
when you said that, it popped straight into my mind, algorithm. So when you're doing what you do on your phone, it's Al is trying to find your rhythm. So when Al finds your rhythm, you know what I'm saying? That's when they kind of got you, or they figured out, you know what I'm saying? Or that's how I was kind of piecing when you said rhythm. It's like rhythm, because I be trying to get to the YouTube algorithms. So I'm trying to figure out the rhythm.
Yo, I think, and if we do the etymology, you probably on track with that one. I don't know it, but what I'm saying is, so a pathological algorithm says that I can set up the outcome of this action from the beginning. So if I have this particular input, I know what the output will be. So say for instance, I could tell you, y'all ever heard of the school to prison pipeline?
I've heard of it in sentiment.
Right. So the school to prison pipeline is an algorithm. So it's to say that if you are African-American male, based on the way the school system is set up, the whole system is designed that by the end of you get to the pipeline, you're more than likely to go to prison than anybody else. That is a pathological algorithm. So algorithm that is not pathological, that is not cancerous, would say, at the end of this pipeline, you don't got to go to prison. You can be whatever you want. You could be free. You could be, there's so many other things. You can be a whole person. So a pathological algorithm says that at this beginning point, I already know what the end point is going to be. And if it's pathological, it's a bad end point. You're gonna get something cancerous in on your life, your spirit. And an algorithm that's not pathological would be one that is healthy.
So how would you define pathological?
So pathological means cancerous, diseased.
Okay, because in my mind, pathological meant repetitive. Because I've only heard of pathological.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is we got on so pathology is the science and cause and effects of diseases, especially a branch of medicine that deals with laboratory examinations of samples of body tissue, diagnostic for, watch this, it's got this word in it too, forensic purposes. So we got a vocabulary, but it's about like.
So is that the same word, pathology? Would that be the same definition as pathological?
Yeah. So pathological liar. So that's what we're dealing with, right?
Well, I was thinking you was meaning like pathological rhythm. So I was thinking that word with pathological algorithm. That's what I was.
Yeah, it's a little different, but the word path is consistent, right? So path is consistent because it's following a pattern, right? That has a specific outcome every time. So if you're a pathological liar, that means every word stream or path. It's funny that my name, my name is I go by Sarad Speaks, right? I'm all talking about words, right? So your word stream it always ends up being a lie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's different from the medical terminology of pathology. Pathology is about disease. So when I say, a pathological algorithm, I mean like this algorithm is about to do something bad in your life. It's going to have a poor outcome for your life. And I call it
a degenerative. Pathological with something good. Could you flip the term and interpret it with something good?
I wouldn't do that. I would call it a generative. So like you got a degenerative algorithm, it's something that degenerates. And then you have like a generative, something that brings life. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't use pathological in that way because, and like, this is the other thing. Who made up these words anyway? You know what I'm saying? Like people made up these words and we can, that's the thing about language, we can redefine, or it happens all the time. We redefine language all the time, but you have to establish what we call your operational definition from the beginning. So if you say, I'm gonna use this word, and you have to say, when I use this word, I mean it this way. It might mean another thing to somebody else, but when I use this word, it means it this way. So going forward, as you read whatever I write or hear whatever I say, just reference back to this point when I told you when I'm using it, this is what it means. That's an operational definition. You could do that with any word. And, as long as you establish
I be changing a lot of words up too. So in trying to get away from certain words, because I know that can kind of manifest its own reality in itself. You know what I'm saying? But
words are powerful, man.
They are. Swore. So I also know, like, through my life journey, like, and through my growth and knowing where I was at and where I am now and where I'm ascending to, it's like I know when I use certain words or if I give certain words, I know people are gonna get the first interpretation of it. So then I know if I use it, I'm gonna have to give the flip side to it. So
yeah,
that's where I be telling Blizzy at sometimes where it gets hard communicating with people sometimes that operate on different frequencies, because then you gotta maneuver the terminology around a little bit differently, you know what I'm saying? So it's like comprehended a little bit better.
So what we talking about, right? it's funny, man. You guys should really study, like, or you should start to look at like programming, because we're talking about code
Yeah.
and syntax. We're talking about code and syntax, and right, and you're programming. This is deep, right? So when you speak, you are programming your reality.
Yeah.
Right. And there's code and syntax. And the way, that's why, it's funny because we say, we cast spells, but we also spell words. Right. And like,
what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
So words are powerful. And even from a spiritual perspective, people said that the power of life and death is in the word or in your tongue, right? So like you could speak some things into existence that in my operational definition of pathological can be bad, right? Or you can choose to speak things into existence that are generative and bring forth life. That's a choice. Like, you ever had somebody cuss you out and it really hurt?
Yeah, the word don't even gotta be that bad. I was like dumbass. That ain't even a sharp word.
Joke, it does something to you. Don't it do something? It does something to your soul, man. Like, it does something to your soul. Yo, check it out. There's this experiment where there's an experiment out there. I'm telling you, man, it's real. There's an experiment out there where people talk to water, right? It's a fact. People know you're supposed to talk to your plants. Like, you can kill your plants by how you talk to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, I tell my shorty that I be around, I said every time we get our food, she always quick to eat. My shit is always like a ritual. I always have to have everything set up and sauced up or moved around. I have to have it my ritualistic way every single time. Even if it's something unhealthy, I still cast an amazing, healthy ritual spell on that motherfucker.
Yeah. And so that's a whole nother show when we get into like, ritual and, how some people get into like, you extract their religiosity and then you show them like, that's actually ritualistic what you're doing there, you know what I'm saying?
Man. Everything, even us getting up in the morning is a ritual. How we go to bed every night is a ritual.
Yeah. Lighting a candle is a ritual. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize how many rituals they do on a daily basis.
So now it's just like being more mindful of it because there's no preventing it.
Exactly. So words are powerful. That's how we got here, and like being very thoughtful about what comes out, and also we talked about a little bit about what goes in, about value, what goes into you.
Yeah.
Also, we have to consider what goes out of us, because what goes out of us has the power to, destroy or build. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has the real power to build or destroy some things. So we got to be very thoughtful about those things that we say, because some things do need to be destroyed, right? But also, some things need to be built, but we got to know, what time it is, and when it's time to use the particular words in a particular situation. So
how old was you when you start finding your spiritual grounding?
So the good thing about me is like, I feel like I was born into spiritual grounding. My grandmother was deep. So, Mahalia Jackson is playing in the house, right? You know what I'm saying? And she was like, deep lady in spirituality, even with my father who raised me, like he was experimenting on the edges of religion even when I was young, like he didn't have a straight path. His path was meandering, and I was able to go along that meandering path from the beginning. I ultimately came back to my faith tradition, which is Christianity. That's my faith tradition. But I've been on a meandering path, and I won't even go into that meandering path too much here today, because I know people probably be like, what? Be like, yeah, bro, you know, like,
I don't even know
yeah.
what that is.
I mean, like, you know, I've been, you know, like, when I was growing up, you know, when I was growing up, my you know, the man who raised me, who I identify as my father, you know, he was very much so into, you know, Islam, you know, like, so at that time when I was very young, you know, we had very, you know, he was trying always to enforce dietary restrictions. He still has dietary restrictions even to this day later in his life. So like I learned that, you know, and I was able to, you know, you know, meander into that world a bit, from a knowledge perspective at a very young age, you know, alongside like my kind of Christian faith tradition, and then also some like more esoteric learning along the way that I got, and I was able to, you know, see a whole different perspective, from a faith perspective than maybe other people had that had a straight line, right? My line wasn't straight. I didn't have a straight line. So I was able to see some different things. But, you know, I ended up, you know, kind of reconciling later where I was because of, you know, I believe the highest moral ethic is love. And I was able to find that in a version of Christianity that worked for me, right? Because there are different ways that people interpret and process their faith tradition. And the one that worked for me was this higher moral ethic of love, and love as the highest height. And I can rock with that. I can stay there. That's where I can stay. And anything that is outside of that, I think is a lesser, you know, outside of the higher moral ethic of love is a lesser spirituality. So, and if you can find that higher moral ethic on the meandering path of love, then I ain't got a problem with that. Like, I ain't the type of Christian to be like, you going to hell. I ain't that. I'm not that guy. So if you need that type of guy, you get that somewhere else. You're not gonna get that from me. I'm open to people making their way to the light, you know, how they get there. So, and I believe, but the way for me, this way was for me. And it's a different way because people don't want to go as deep as I go. But I be having like, you ain't really trying to go there with me, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I studied under one of the best Hebrew scholars in America. You know, like I learned to read and write Hebrew and all that. Like I went deep. Like you ain't fitting to have no debate with me for real. Because
are you done? Are you done?
Yeah, I would eat you. I will crush you. Because I did come out of that era too. Like, you know, I came out of hip hop era, like where I came out of like in that like the 80s and 90s. I was in that knowledge era. So I was in knowledge, and I was in the, you know, I was in that era too.
Godcast, I fuck with Lord Jamar. He got the young.
Yeah, I met Lord Jamar in like, I guess it was like 99, 2000. That's my guy. I rock with Brand Nubian from the beginning, you know, from back in the day. So like, you know, I come from that era too. So like, don't come think you're gonna have a debate because you're gonna get crushed. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even enter into those things. I don't enter into those debates. You'll never see me like online debating because I'll be like, first of all, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I don't have time to catch you up, but I'm gonna let you argue with these other people, catch yourself up, because then you'll get there to understand that, you know, wisdom is the principal thing anyway, right? And wisdom is knowledge applied. And if you haven't, you know, you don't have any application of this knowledge, and you don't really have no wisdom, and then you may know some stuff, but knowing is not everything. Right. Yeah. And then there are ways of knowing. Just like I said before, some people are book learners, they're, you know, object oriented, some people are subject oriented. Like what Cheno learned in Africa, you can't get that out of no book. You got to have that experience. So my wisdom and my knowledge is inside of me.
That's like my 3 years of prison. I wouldn't tell nobody to go there and experience it, but
Right, but it's like,
but
I
that's
can,
my experience, and you know, this is my knowledge
like
that I took from it.
somebody battery dead again, but
Oh,
I can bring things into life, into existence.
All this shit about to be
Yeah, so I can bring things into existence because of what's inside of me. Like that's knowledge, and that's when you're able to manifest those things into your reality, is because you really got it.
That's big. That's big facts. That's big facts. We be on that manifestation heavy, but I know we've been running this one up. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna wrap it up. We gonna wrap it up. You wanna let everybody know where they can find you at? What you got coming up?
Yeah, man. We got, we've got a Determined series on the website now. So go to vinegarhillmagazine.com, check out all our content. We got merch at the Heritage Center, Jefferson School, Culture Vibes, also at Legends. So there's 3 locations where you can pick up merch and just stay a part of the conversation. We say, we're a magazine, but we got dope merch. So, and we say, join the conversation. Art. We believe that art plus business equals freedom. So like continue to hone your artistic skills, merge that with your business strategies, and then get free,
Big facts.
So
that's much love, much love. We appreciate you pulling up to the Godcast and taking the call for us. You know what I'm saying? A lot of dope knowledge and information been dropped on this one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, definitely make sure y'all tap into Vinegar Hill. You know what I'm saying? Tap into the history. Do some research. You know
appreciate it. Shout out to our founder, our publisher, Eddie Harris, who
big salute to Eddie. You know what I'm saying? We got Cheno Bliss in the building as always. You know what I'm saying? Make sure y'all subscribe. And I'm your boy TrakBeatz. We signing out.
All right.